Good morning. I'm Carol Hensler, she, her, and I serve on the board of directors. Welcome to White Bear Unitarian Universalist Church. We are a community of youth, adults, and children of many diverse theologies, held together by covenant, not creed. Together we share the values of courage, reverence, and compassion. May you know deep welcome and belonging in this place. To share a request for today's meditation, please place it in the chat box before the opening hymn or add it to our meditation bowl. Please gain consent before you use someone's full name. The meditation bowl is in the Soul Work Center. Welcome to any visitors. Excuse me. We are so glad you are here. Sorry. After today's service, there will be a 12. I'm glad I'm not in the choir. Welcome to any visitors. We are so glad you are here. After today's service, there will be a 12-minute introduction and tour. The tour guide this morning will be Meredith. After the service, please find her next to the fabric wall over here. For those in the room, please join us at our social hour after the service in the social hall. Welcome to our church. Together, we grow our souls and serve the world we love.
I'm Reverend Jack, and my pronouns are he, him. Come in. Come into this place which we make holy by our presence. Come in with all your vulnerabilities and strengths, fears and anxieties, loves and hopes, and true colors. For here you need not hide, nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this place where we can touch and be touched, heal and be healed, forgive and be forgiven. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, the human is celebrated, the compassionate is expected. Come into this place, together we make it a holy place.
Hello, my name is Logan, and my pronouns are they, them. I have been gay my whole life, but I've known that I am gay for 6 years. I was raised in a very open and accepting family. And then, when I was 7, we started coming to this church. This church helped me understand more about the LGBTQ+ community. I was proud to say that I was an ally of the LGBTQ+ community. 2 years later, at the age of 9, I remember sitting in the back of my dad's car on a hot, sunny day, coming home from summer camp and hearing on the radio about a shooting in Florida. The shooter had targeted a gay club in Orlando, killing 49 people and wounding 53. This was the first time that it occurred to me that being queer could be dangerous. When I was 11, I picked up this book called Twilight off my English teacher's bookshelf. In case you don't know what Twilight is, it's the best piece of literature ever known about a girl who falls in love with a vampire named Edward Cullen. I finished the first book in the series in a week before I moved on to the rest of the books in the series, finishing all 4 in 2 weeks. I begged my mom to buy me the whole series so I could have my own copies. In the span of 3 months, I read Twilight 12 times. Around the 8th time, though, I realized something. I wasn't reading these books because they were good. I was reading them because I had a crush on Edward Cullen. Edward Cullen was my gay awakening. I realized I wasn't an ally. I was part of the queer family. Shortly after my realization, I was getting ready for school one morning and my mom asked me how I was doing. I told her that I was gay. I don't think she was exactly surprised with my coming out, but I also don't think she was prepared to hear that declaration at 6:30 in the morning while brushing her teeth. My family wholeheartedly loves and supports everything about me. Not every queer person receives that kind of unconditional acceptance from their family, even though they all deserve it. When I started my freshman year at Roseville Area High School, I wanted to fly under the radar and keep being gay hidden. I had heard stories about gay kids being bullied at school. However, I quickly realized that at least at my school, with the people I knew and interacted with, no one cared. I have many straight and gay friends, teachers, and mentors who I can be out and proud around. But as I have gotten older, I've learned the importance of code switching in order to keep myself safe. I am aware of how I talk, what I wear, how I am perceived whenever I go to a new place. I need to hide who I am in order to be safe. And even though I am somewhere that I consider welcoming, I still think now and then of the Pulse nightclub shooting. Those people thought they were in a safe place where they could be their authentic selves. There's this website that I like to visit sometimes called Queer Mapping. On this website, queer people from all over the world can anonymously put a stamp down in a place where there was a monumental to them in their journey. Crushes, kisses, weddings. In October of 2023, someone in Gaza marked a spot on that map and wrote, "I don't know how long I will live, so I just want this to be my memory here before I die. I am not going to leave my home, come what may. My biggest regret is not kissing this one guy. He died 2 days back. We had told each other how much we liked each other, and I was too shy to kiss last time. He died in a bombing, and I think a big part of me died too. And soon I will be dead. To Jonas, I will kiss you in heaven. I'm lucky to live in a place at this time as a gay person. Life is not perfect, and I am sure there are plenty of haters out there. But I have family and friends and love and support that support me. I have a roof over my head. I am safe. In many ways, I am very privileged. But queer people are everywhere, in every corner of the world, in every community, and they all have different paths in figuring out their sexual orientation and where they fit in their societies. I light this chalice today for listening to queer voices all around the world.
I'm Reverend Jessica, and my pronouns are she, her. Will you join me in the opening words? Love is the spirit of this church, and the service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn. Were you going to do that, Rack? Okay. Go for it. I'll let you take it from here. 188. I don't think your mic's on. Maybe not. What number is it? No, the mic. But thank you all. It's 188.
This hymn is around, so I'll be splitting us into groups in a moment, but we're going to start by singing in unison. Ready? 1, 2, 3, here we go. Come, come, whoever you are, wander, worship another of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. We're going to sing this in 4 parts, so while we're going to be splitting all of us up, you will have the support of the choir, so sing boldly. Let's have this be the first group, a mighty small one. Let's have this be group 2, about right here. And then we'll have this-ish be group 3. And then the 4th group. We're going to sing through this round twice. So you can just stop when you get through it the second time. All right, group 1, singing boldly, along with the choir. Ready? 1, 2, 3, here we go. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are.
The story this morning is heavily adapted from Bruce Colville's short story, Am I Blue, Coming Out of the Closet. So if you are a young person and want to come closer, or a person of any age who wants to come closer to hear the story better, feel welcome to do that. Once upon a time, there was a 16-year-old named Bruce. And one day he found out that he had a fairy godfather named Melvin. Melvin was kind of like the godmother in Cinderella in the way he could work his magic, but he was a modern dresser and he had a lot more sass. Bruce encountered his fairy godfather on a particularly hard day when he had gotten beaten up by some classmates who were making fun of Bruce and calling him gay. Bruce didn't even know for sure if he was gay, but he knew that he didn't like getting teased or beaten up. Melvin had some very wise advice for Bruce that he delivered over a cup of coffee in their local cafe. And that's when Melvin had a brilliant idea. He suggested to Bruce that he could grant him a wish that would allow Bruce to know who was gay or queer in some way because their skin would be blue, but only to Bruce's eye. That way, Bruce would be able to see how many people identified as queer around him. Once Melvin worked his magic, Bruce realized that there were queer people in that very cafe. And later that day, Bruce also encountered a gay cop, a queer bus driver, and the next day at school he noticed that some of his teachers and fellow students were also gay. For Bruce, this was very helpful to know, because he knew that if he were gay, he wouldn't be so alone. His special magical powers only lasted one day, but it really helped him understand the world better. After that day, he returned to the regular world, the world where people's skin wasn't blue based on whether or not they were queer. But after that day, he still remembered that many people out there were queer, and those people were all deeply loved and accepted and a wonderful part of society. Now, in this world where we don't have that same ability and our queerness isn't necessarily visible on our skin, like in Bruce's story, some people decide to come out as queer in some way because they want to share more about who they are and share more about how they experience the world. And then, once those people come out, other people who have similar experiences or identities end up feeling not so alone. That's part of what we're celebrating in today's service, which is why we have these rainbow decorations behind me. And later in the service, some of the queer members of our church are going to be sharing more about their stories. I hope that whoever you are within this congregation, you learn how to love and accept the people in your life for who they are. I hope that if someone trusts you with their coming out story and shares more about who they are, you will respond with showering them with love and acceptance, especially because some people in our world don't. So go forth today with courage and love. Please join me for a moment of prayer or meditation. Take a moment to take a deep breath in and out. Maybe lifting your shoulders and letting them fall away. Spirit of life and love, spirit of mystery and wonder, here we are today, about 110 people in this room and 26 households on Zoom. We are a diverse community of people with varying identities of gender and sexuality and theology. We know that we need each other to survive. And at the same time, we know it can be challenging to be part of a bigger community. Today, we pray for the courage to be who we are, to love who we love, and to share that with others. Today we pray for the wisdom and the foresight to love and accept our fellow travelers on this journey called life as we figure out how to support one another as we struggle through it together. All of us bring with us various joys and sorrows in our hearts, and we lift them up this morning. We hold in light and in love all of the people of all ages who are struggling to come out and be who they are meant to be and share that beautiful self with the world. We pray that they find the courage and the safety and the timing that is right for them to lean more fully into their authenticity. We also have a prayer intention here for a loved one traveling. May he have a successful trip and come home well. And we also have a request here. Please send healing vibes to Ron Leslie, Nance's dad, who fell in the shower and is recovering from hypothermia. We take a moment now to speak the names of the people that we're holding in our hearts and minds into this space so that we can hear the prayers of our fellow sojourners. Knowing that together we can hold this better than we can alone. May it be so, and amen. Please remain seated as we sing number 1009, Meditation on Breathing, and Rack will give us some intro.
I encourage you to bounce around the different parts if you are so confident. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
Good morning. My name is Tina Soderstrom. My pronouns are they, them, and she, her. And if you want to make my heart sing, use they, them. You probably have heard gender is a social construct, which is to say, we create ideas of gender together and continue to agree on them or not. Gender includes how we intrinsically know ourselves, as well as how we express ourselves in the world. And you can't know someone's gender just by looking at them. In December 2022, I held my first community circle teaching adults how to support the trans and queer youth in their lives. I had a couple of friends there to cheer me on, and even my own parents. As I prepared for the event, I decided that I was going to come out publicly for the first time as non-binary. Maybe? As we began, we went around saying our names and if we wanted our pronouns. I was so nervous, but I decided to go for it and noted that I used both she, her, and they, them pronouns. Although that day I didn't explicitly declare my gender as non-binary, this was the first time I ever said out loud that I use something other than just she, her pronouns. It was terrifying and liberating. As the cartoonist Tim Kreider wrote, if we want the rewards of being loved, we have to submit to the mortifying ordeal of being known. Ugh, no. When I meet people, depending on how safe the situation feels, I will probably mention my 3 kids, saying something like, my daughter is in high school, my non-binary kid is in middle school, and my son is in elementary school. The thing I feel really awkward about, the thing that goes unsaid most of the time, is I'm non-binary too. I feel like this church is quite a safe place. Seeing pride flags, hearing people introduce themselves with their pronouns, that's part of what drew me here. But most of the time, I just don't want to get into a conversation about what being non-binary means. Y'all, coming out is exhausting. It just never ends. So maybe someday I will be more inclined to note that I'm non-binary, or maybe not. Part of me really wants to, because it makes more space for other trans and non-binary people. But as my therapist reminds me, I don't have to come out to anyone, ever. I am so grateful for all the trans people who have come out before me and who continue to come out, especially the young people. Thank you for making space for me and for all of us. I am grateful for all the allies who continue to share their pronouns and learn. Making space and holding space for people is vitally important to me. When we can be honest and vulnerable about who we really are, when we can submit to the mortifying process of being known, we can love ourselves and be loved by others, and I can confirm it's worth it.
Before we take this morning's offering, we have a few brief announcements. First of all, we're hoping that many of you are planning to join us this afternoon for a presentation from our stewardship consultant, Rachel Maxwell. After interviewing many of our church's leaders and committees, she will be joining us at 12:30 to give a report about the state of our stewardship and share a bit about how to deepen our culture of generosity. We hope you can join us. Next Sunday, October 20th, Reverend Jack will be hosting this year's first membership class. If you're new or new-ish and want to learn more about our church, please plan to attend. The class will start at 12:30 in the Wheatley Room. Snacks will be provided, and registration is required if you will be requesting childcare. And mark your calendars for 2 spectacular concerts happening in the next month. First, the Bazillions are doing an amazing family-friendly Halloween-themed concert/dance party on Saturday, October 26th. Pizza party at 5, dance party at 6 p.m. And then, on Saturday, November 9th, we'll be hosting a concert of Grammy award-winning artist Nachito Herrera at 7:30 p.m. Come and bring some friends. And now, a special announcement from our auction co-chairs, Jean and Melva.
Hi, Jean. How are you doing?
Well, pretty good, Melva, but, actually lately, I've been having a little trouble with my ears.
I'm having a little trouble with my mic.
Oh, that happens too.
That happens too.
Yeah.
Well,
It's us, after all.
I've been hearing there's this thing called jingle-itis. I think it's maybe jingle-itis.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's what I've been hearing. Jingle, jingle, jingle.
Could be, and it is going around.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
speaking of going around, hi.
What's
I'm
this?
So happy I want to mingle. I'm in a mood to mingle. I see old friends.
Mm-hmm.
I see new friends. I see people I haven't even met yet. I see visitors. I'm just, hi.
Well, slow down, Melva. It sounds like maybe you've been infected too, a little case of mingle-itis, perhaps?
Well, I hear that's going around too.
Yeah, well, luckily, the symptoms of both jingleitis and mingleitis are pretty benign.
Like feeling really generous,
Yep, having an urge to socialize.
an overwhelming need to share your time and your talents.
So maybe we can pass this condition on to all of you here in church and at home watching on Zoom. We are inviting all of you to join us on December 7th, 2024, for the second annual Jingle and Mingle Dinner, Auction, and Bazaar.
It's our major fundraising effort of the year, and it takes all of us to make this event a success.
But maybe you have some questions or some concerns, so you're going to find Mingle Melva and Jingle Jean out in the social hall at a table.
And you'll find links to the Jingle and Mingle. It has Jingle, Mingle, Jingles before Mingle, right?
Yes, always.
Okay. The Jingle and Mingle website in the e-news and on the church's website. That's where you'll be able to register your donations starting in just a couple of weeks, November 1st.
So look in your closets, in your pockets, and anywhere else things may be lurking. It's time to jingle and mingle once again.
They always do such a great job. The recipient of today's special collection is the North Star Youth Outreach Center in the Maplewood Mall. WBUUC partnered with Tubman to establish North Star in 2016 and continues to provide rent for the space, supplies, and volunteers. North Star is a daytime resource center for youth experiencing homelessness. The center offers support services including clothing, food, school supplies, personal care items, laundry facilities, computer access, and community resources. We will now watch a short video about North Star. Earlier this year, Tubman worked with Maplewood Mall to double North Star's available space. This was a result of increased numbers of youth coming to the center and a need for expanded services. Tubman has also significantly increased its financial and staffing support. The wish list for the expanded space includes a shower facility, an added laundry unit, expanded clothing and food availability, and a private counseling space. Our continued support of North Star is critical because youth homelessness is increasing. As always, you can contribute in today's collection basket or on the website, or by sending a check, or using the text to give directions in the order of service, or in the Zoom chat box. However you give, please indicate the word North Star, all one word, no spaces. Again, that's North Star. Thank you for your generosity and for the faith in this life that we lead together.
I'm Erin. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm gay. And I just have to say, it's really nice to be up here and seeing everyone's faces, because I'm usually staring at the back of your heads back there. So, hi, everybody. When Reverend Jessica asked me if I'd share my coming out story, I said, I'll think about it. And as I thought about it, coming out took me 22 years. And don't worry, it's a greatly abridged 22 years that I'm going to talk about this morning. So I grew up in Dubuque, Iowa. It's a mid-sized Midwest town in the 1970s and 80s. Language was very different then. Gender roles were very rigid. Pink box for girls, blue box for boys. And who knew we'd be where we are now, talking about pronouns and all the fluidity in gender. I'm so grateful that this has changed. From a young age, I wasn't a check the pink box kind of girl. Anything pink made my stomach feel really twingy. And as stereotypical as it sounds, I didn't want to play Barbies with my sister. I hung out with the neighborhood boys. We rode our bikes everywhere, had adventures in the woods, and played football. And I was the quarterback. I had crushes on girls that I didn't know were crushes until much later. And wearing dresses, oh, ick. I was, the now outdated term, a tomboy. And that seemed fine until it wasn't. I was 9 years old when I first heard the word lesbian. Some kids at school were teasing another girl on the playground. She likes girls. She's gross. She's a lesbian. My stomach felt super twingy again. I like girls, I thought. Am I gross too? That night, I'm going to date myself here. That night I went downstairs and got the big Random House dictionary off the shelf. The definition of lesbian in that crusty old dictionary made my stomach twingy again. It sounded so gross. That wasn't me. I started to cry, and I slammed that dictionary shut and closed the closet door tightly. Fast forward to high school. Remember, this was the mid-'80s, so the worst thing you could be called was gay. It was a slur in the halls, in the lunchroom. You heard it every day, everywhere. And I wasn't ready to be real with myself or bring that ire on, so I stayed closeted. High school fun fact number 1. 3 out of the 4 of my homecoming dates later came out gay. So when I was 15, I kinda tried to come out to the girl I was crushing on. Honestly, I have no idea what I was thinking. It was so horribly awkward, and I couldn't even say it. She actually told me I was gay. Stomach twingy, embarrassed. I totally denied it and pulled that closet door shut again. High school fun fact number 2. I did find the 80s version of the Gay Straight Alliance, otherwise known as the theater department. So many of us from that theater department have come out since high school, and we've questioned, why didn't we talk to one another? And we've all agreed that it was just way too risky. So I continued to stay closeted through college, which, considering I went to a very liberal school, would have been the perfect place to come out. And there was also a very significant guy that I dated and loved deeply, making me question everything. But after he graduated and the relationship ended, the attraction to women continued. So I started to open that closet door again, grabbing any LGBTQ+ book I could find. And it was exciting to find representation, but the protagonists were often laden with melancholy. That wasn't the life that I wanted. Were there happy gay women? And if so, where were they? I was doubtful that they were living in Dubuque. But that's where I got my first big marketing job, so back I went. So it's 1994. My first job, my first solo apartment, and my first new car, a Geo I felt so powerful that I felt ready, so I took a deep breath and I opened the closet door. Initially, I defined myself as bi because there was that significant college guy who, to this day, loves that he holds that distinction in my story. The first person I told was my friend Jill. She was in town for Christmas. Jill picked me up, and like in high school, we drove around talking and looking at the Christmas lights. That night had that glow that winter nights do when the snow reflects the light back and it gives it a blue magical cast. She was playing Cheap Trick. I'm going to date myself again. She was playing Cheap Trick on her cassette deck. And as the opening to Dream Police started up, I said, "Jill, I'm bi." And Jill said, "Okay, cool." And that was it. Dream Police became my power anthem, and I'd finally said it out loud for real. I continued telling people, eventually replacing bi with gay, telling my sister, and of course the significant college guy, friends, and then a most loving friend and helpful friend who asked me, "When are you going to tell your parents?" Oof. So I came out to my parents on April 7th, 1995, and I know this because I told them in a letter. Boy, if you really want to make your stomach super twingy, read something that you wrote almost 30 years ago. Whew. Rereading this was very bittersweet. I was very fearful. I wrote, "I made a conscious effort to be a low-impact child and a good person, thinking that once this time arrived, that maybe those I love and care about wouldn't turn their backs and hate me for it." And I was hopeful. Writing, accepting myself has been one of the hardest parts. Once I was able to do that, I'm finally alive for the first time in my life. At age 23, I am 100% here. And then this line jumped out. I am thankful that Britton, my sister, got married, because I can't guarantee I will be able to, legally and all. I'm so glad that's changed. I'd like to say the letter was well received. It wasn't. There were many painful conversations and family drama that followed, but eventually my parents accepted it. After all, I had had 22 years to get used to the idea of being gay, so obviously they needed a little time too. Thank you.
So in case you haven't already picked up on it, this past Friday, October 11th, was National Coming Out Day. This day was founded by activists Robert Eichberg and Jean O'Leary in 1988. They decided to commemorate this day to be a positive beacon to the world and to celebrate coming out. They picked this specific day because it was the anniversary of the 1987 National March on Washington for lesbian and gay rights. Was anybody at that march? I was hoping that, okay, yeah. And you're partnered, so that makes sense. You organized Rhode Island. That is awesome. That's wonderful. And so here we are 37 years later, and this week my Facebook feed was filled with friends and colleagues coming out. And what's true is that for one who is LGBTQ+, coming out is not something that's done once and then you're good, you're done. It is done for the rest of your life. We live in a society which assumes heterosexuality, which assumes gender. One constantly has to assert their place and say, we're here. We are more of the norm than our society would have you believe. Or the other option, we're here, we're queer, get used to it. And what's true is that heteronormativity, sexism, and homophobia are internalized within all of us. They are part of white supremacy culture. It's in the air we breathe. And we have all these messages, things that we learned when we were young, and our work as adults is to unlearn them, to say, actually, that's not the truth, and to be gentle with ourselves in the process. The first time I brought a same-sex partner home at the age of 30, I lied to my parents and said we were just friends. I could have told them, but I was afraid. I was afraid of my own internalized homophobia. I was afraid of rejection. And eventually, with time, I began a very slow crawl out of the closet. And that slow crawl was as much about me owning my own internalized homophobia as well as owning that you never know what people are going to say when you come out to them. You never know how storekeepers are going to treat you. Are they just rude? Are they homophobic? You never know how waiters are going to treat you, doctors. There's always this moment of holding my breath. Am I going to be accepted in the fullness of who I am? And when I came out publicly, first as bi, now queer, the people who weren't fazed and the people who didn't bat an eye and just said, okay, they were my UU friends, and I had become a UU the year before I came out. They were the people who said, this is a more full expression of who you are, and we support you. Pass the French fries. And this is what we are about, this acceptance, nurturing, and being able to allow for all of the possibilities that make up human existence. And coming out, and this still occurs to this day, coming out to my friends who are cisgender and straight, I often have to educate them on the difference between sexual orientation and gender. Because on coming out day and many other days as well, we lump together LGBTQ, but today especially, I hope you note that gender and sexual orientation are two very different things. And so someone can be trans and be straight. Someone can be gay and be cisgender. When we're born, we're assigned a sex on the binary, often male or female, based on our body parts. But what science is telling us is that sex and gender are two very different things. For some, their gender is the same as their sex assigned at birth. They're known as cisgender. I'm a cisgender female. I was assigned female at birth, and I identify as female and use she, her pronouns. For others, from an early age, their parents and they can tell that this sex that was assigned to them at birth is not their gender. Their gender may be something different or not on the binary altogether. They may be agender or genderqueer or non-binary, as we've heard about today. And what this means for everyone in the room who hasn't heard about this before, or this is a new thing, is a simple thing of just saying, my pronouns are this, what are your pronouns? You don't have to understand the intricacies of it all, but you are invited to accept, make space for people and welcome them. And for some of you, queer was always a derogatory word, right? And so the way that you're hearing it now might be a little bit hard to hear. And so it is being reclaimed over the last many years. So someone could say their sexual orientation is queer. Someone else could say they are genderqueer. And what that means for each of these people is something completely different. And what's true is there's not one definition of queer. If we got out that old, I don't even know, well, queer's, oh gosh, in that dictionary it was probably really bad. One Google search alone will give up like 10 definitions. So the specifics of what this means is actually not what this is about. What it's about is reclaiming the word, and asking mainstream, and reclaiming the world, and asking mainstream society to embrace the intersectionality of it, to embrace that it doesn't have a pat, categorical answer, and that it leaves room within for each person to define it for themselves. And as I said before, what this means for all of you in regards to gender is just a simple thing, asking, what are your pronouns? You don't have to understand them, but you're invited to accept them. And often what we say is, I don't understand, it doesn't make sense. Could you explain yourself? Much is the same for many gay people when they came out having to justify who they loved and why they loved them. And our invitation right now is to support and advocate for those, especially who are trans, because as we heard last year when Heather Vickery from the UU Service Committee spoke, there are few states left where trans people have laws in place protecting and supporting them, and thankfully Minnesota is one of them. And there are many states where it is not safe to live as a trans person. And so with all this new queer and trans knowledge, this month our theme is listening, and we get to sit with the question of how do we listen when we don't understand? And understand that no one has to justify their gender or their sexual orientation to you. Google can be your friend, as well as Reverend Jack and I. We are happy to have conversations explaining how our vocabulary is becoming more welcoming and expansive. And we bring our full selves to this congregation, gathering here in our sanctuary with the goal of growing our souls and serving the world. And part of being centered around that mission is recognizing that we're all changing, being transformed, transforming together. And for some, this place is the first place they can claim their gender. And that we may have known them as a different gender. And we might have made assumptions about them based on what they're wearing, but we have an invitation to do our best and apologize if we misgender them. We also make assumptions about sexual orientation as well. As Erin said in her reflection, I truly never thought I would see equal rights for marriage in my lifetime, and here it is. And as we know, it could be taken away by certain people in power who threaten it regularly. So many things are on the line with this election, and that is why coming together in our progressive faith spaces is so important to lift up and affirm and bless our LGBTQ beloveds. And part of that welcome that we can offer is to stop debating gender and recognize that it is fluid, recognize and affirm that each person has the right to tell us who they are. And our job is to listen, affirm, and support. Not argue about the semantics of language, even if you were a writer or an English professor, or to argue about our own understandings of biology, but to listen and affirm and support. What if we lived in a world where we asked gender pronouns, didn't assume heteronormativity, and accepted that the only norms were that there weren't norms? Can you imagine it? Part of what we do together is dream about the world we want to create and bring that into being in sacred space. We make brave space together where people can be their full selves. So we get to do that here this morning. I am so glad you all are here. I'm so glad for those of you who are online are here this morning. And so now is the time in our service where we will honor National Coming Out Day. And this is a blessing from Reverend Rose Maldonado Schwab. And during this blessing, I will be inviting members of the LGBTQ+ community forward, and then inviting our allies down to bless them. So I invite you, as we begin our blessing, to just take a moment, center yourself, cast your eyes down or close them, and take a soothing breath, drawing your awareness to your heart space. If you're thinking, how much longer is this going to go? I invite you to just set that aside. Just be present to this blessing of our beloveds. So draw your awareness to your heart space. Imagine a little glowing diamond deep inside your chest. And as you imagine that diamond, when you breathe, When you breathe in, it brightens, and when you breathe out, it dims. And you're invited to draw to mind someone you love. Imagine their face before you. Imagine the love radiating from you to them. And now take your hands and place them face up in your lap. And feel right in the very middle of your palm a golden orb. When you breathe in, it glows. And when you breathe out, it dims. It has a pressure and a pulse. And now draw your hands up and place them over your heart. And repeat after me. May I be free from suffering. May I find sanctuary. May I be healed. And now I'm going to list some categories. If the words I use apply to you, I invite you to be brave, to rise and join me here as you are willing and able. You may also stay where you are and raise your hand if that's more comfortable. I invite you to join me if you are a lesbian. I invite you to join me if you are gay. I invite you to join me if you are transgender. I invite you to join me if you are non-binary or gender non-conforming. I invite you to join me if you are bi. I invite you to join me if you are queer. I invite you to join me if you are queer but pass as straight, whether through your presentation or through the relationship that you are in. If you are questioning or if you have ever questioned. If you are closeted. I invite you to join me if you hold an identity that wasn't named, but that is part of this beautiful, expansive universe of non-mainstream sexual orientation and gender identities. And now let us send out compassion to anyone here with us and everyone out there in the world who has chosen not to come out today. There are many reasons people may feel unsafe or uncomfortable with publicly sharing this part of themselves. Remember that golden orb? Imagine it still in your palm, still there, growing warmer and brighter, and send that warmth out to anyone who feels pressure not to come out. It may be someone you know, it may be a stranger, it may be yourself. Send them love, sending prayers for their physical and financial and emotional safety. Send them hope. And we honor those of you who are watching online and send this blessing to you as well if you are within one of these categories named. And now everyone who has not come to the front or raised your hand, you have a very special job to make this sanctuary one of the few places in the world, even today, where LGBTQ plus people are considered full spiritual beings with the right to worship and the right to fullness of human relationship. So go ahead and take another soothing breath and help us to hold all the years of shame and anxiety that so many among us have gone through. Help us to take away the curse of ostracism and the pain of broken families. Here in this community, we believe that the human heart is a good and powerful agent in this world. In that spirit, I invite us into a laying on of hands for LGBTQ plus community gathered here today. And so you beautiful LGBTQ plus people who've come forward, or if there are any who've stayed in your seats, if you would prefer not to be touched, please cross your arms over your chest. As we imagine a world without stigma or hatred for queer people, I invite allies to come forward. Place a hand on a shoulder, and then the other allies behind them to join hands. You can also stay in your seat and lay your hand on someone near you who has identified themselves as LGBTQ+, unless they have crossed their arms over. Or you can hold your palms out if people are too far away. And if you are LGBTQ+ but have chosen not to identify yourself today, know that the blessing's here for you as well, even though we don't know who you are. May you bless yourself as we bless you. So come forward now, and we can just make a line of blessing of, there we go, perfect, perfect. I'm gonna rise up here so I can see everyone, beautiful. And now take another breath and touch base with that diamond in your heart. Think of someone up here who you love. Maybe it's someone who you've watched come out or someone you saw for the first time today. Bring them into your heart and send them love and kindness. Take a breath. Will you pray with me? May we be free from suffering. May we be free from May we be free from shame. May we be free from the storms of guilt and rage. May we find here acceptance and love. May we know that we are whole and good in all our complicated beauty. That we are powerful beyond measure. That the fire of our creativity is needed. May we be a light to this world. May the hands in this room be used for good. May we find a compassion bigger than our ego. A bravery wiser than our insecurities. A love stronger than our fear. Amen. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. The words are going to be on the screen so you can join in. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything beloveds, thank you. Please help continuing to make this a brave space centered in love. Amen. Turn to the people around you and say thank you. You are beautiful.
Thank you.